Alright, today's project is going to be a little bit different. We're going to focus on painting a Khorne Flesh Hound from the Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k universes. And this is a nice little Demon of Chaos. We're going to start off with a little bit of airbrushing. Actually, we're going to start off with a whole lot of airbrushing. Let's go ahead and get out our base coat. We're going to start off with some Bloodfest Crimson and start laying down some nice saturated undercoats. Right, we've gotten some Bloodfest Crimson down as a base coat. It's a nice, deep, rich kind of red, and now we're going to go over that with a bit of Burnt Red from Acryl. This is going to be our secondary layer. This is going to build a little bit more of a traditional red rather than that deep, almost purplish red that the Crimson gave us over Black Primer. Alright, it's time to bring in some Acryl Coal Black. We're going to use this to shade in the areas where the Fleshhound has all of these spines and bumps and kind of skin things down its legs and on its back. This is a nice rich black that's not a true black, but it gives us a nice texture and color over the red. Alright, we're going to use some bold Pyrrole Red at this point to bring up some high tones along the skin texture. And I've got to pick off a few little flakes and stuff. When I first loaded up the bold Pyrrole Red, I had a bit of a tip splatter. So sometimes you can physically remove these, sometimes you can paint over them. It just really depends. Sometimes you don't want to let that texture sit there. That will cause problems later on, hence why you see me picking at it with a sculpting tool and then brushing it aside, and then continuing on here with the red. We're doing this very subtly. We don't want a whole lot of red. In fact, red's really not the main focus of the model. So we're just getting some of the musculature, mostly top down here. Okay, let's hit the frills on the front of the Flesh Hound. I'm going to use some flesh tone colors here, starting off with some Acryl Tan Flesh. This will add a nice, actually fairly light skin color over the stretched areas between the horns, tines, what have you, in the frill of the Flesh Hound. I'm going to bring in some Carroburg Crimson into the frill as well. I'm going to wash that in and then touch back up on the tan flesh a little bit later. This is going to kind of muddy things up a bit, but we've kind of undertoned, we'll tint it, and then we'll go back in. Okay, so now we're entering probably one of the more painstaking, deliberate sections of the paint job. I'm going to use a mixture of Staegadon Scale Green as kind of a base or a dark tone, Turquoise as a mid-tone with a little bit of blue in it, and Blue Horror as an almost white highlight here on the spines and all of the little nodules all over the back where the coal black was applied earlier. You'll see me kind of go back and forth here, try a few different things out. Here we're watching it in just normal time, so you can see that it's a little rough going at first, and it takes me a little bit to get going, but once I do, it starts looking better. Remember to mix a little bit of that light blue into it, and if you get a little too heavy, go back down to your dark tone, all the way down to that coal black again if need be. There's nothing wrong with adding shade back in, and take all of your edge and point highlights in multiple layers. Hit them 2 or 3 times. You don't have to get all the paint on at once. And as a quick aside, I'm going to take care of this scar here on the Fleshhound's back. I'm going to use a little bit of our red that we had previously airbrushed down and mix that with some tan flesh and olive flesh as a highlight here along the scar. This is going to look like a fairly fresh, bright scar, but flesh tones like this, these peachy colors, are a good way to highlight and have some fun with red. Once we're done with that, we'll get right back to the spines. Another fun bit about the colors that we just got out, the flesh tones are a great way to get the sclera in on the eyes, and tan flesh over a little bit of the brown and black and red that we put down with our airbrush work as great bone and tooth and claw colors here. You'll also notice that we've added a little bit of highlight around the bridge of the nose, the eye ridges, etc. We've just used little light shades of that previous blue that we're using on our spine, so we're just slowly building up these final details. I'm going to add a little bit of red to a couple of the muscles along the way, as well as the spines, and you'll just see me kind of finish it out from here. So the last detail we really need to hit on our Flesh Hound is its iconic brass collar. So I'm actually going to bring out some gold colors for this. I'm going to get out some Scale 75 Necrotic Gold, Viking Gold, and Elf Gold, as well as a little bit of our Magic Mix, which is Nuln, Agrax, and Lahmian mixed together. That's going to give us our nice metallic collar, and once we flatten everything down with the varnish at the end, it won't be so lustrous. I'm just finishing out a couple of spot highlights here with our olive flesh over the bone areas. And with that, we're done. It just needs a base. Well, that was quick. I made a base real quick. So our Flesh Hound is done. It's ready to hit the field. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to have another video next week for you. And I will see you on Twitch this weekend. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit follow. Have a great week painting miniatures.